Workshop Topics Part 12, Er40 Collets, my conclusion. In Part 11 of Workshop Topics, I showed some of the problems that I'm having with this Er40 Collet system not holding the work accurately. In the first part of this episode, I'm going to refit the collet chuck that I bought with the Er40 Collet sets. This collet chuck has a Morse taper number 3 that fits the Morse taper number 3 hole in the centre of the headstock spindle. Using a cloth and a piece of metal bar, I've cleaned out the hole down the centre and now I'm fitting the chuck. I thought it was a good idea before fitting this part into the headstock spindle to give this a clean as well. With the very clean chuck in the very clean Morse taper number 3 hole, I've fitted the drawbar and now it's time to select a suitable collet to fit this piece of metal bar. For the first part of this test, I'm using the securing ring that has the ball race. This allows me to put much more pressure on the collet to tighten it into the taper in the collet chuck. After initially fitting the collar and making it hand tight, I used a special spanner to tighten it fully, which locks the collet securely into the taper in the chuck. With the piece of bar sticking out from the collet quite a long way, it's a bit wobbly, and it shouldn't be. This is a very true, very straight piece of steel bar. If I fit this piece of steel bar into the 4-jaw self-centering chuck fitted to my Smart & Brown lathe, it runs much truer than this. Maybe I've just been incompetent and fitted it wrong. I removed the bar, removed the collet and tried again. I fully tightened the locking ring and here we go again. And this time it's worse. I'm struggling to understand this a little bit. I fit the collet to the collet ring, then I fit the whole assembly to the collet chuck. Why doesn't it spin true? Take 3, as they say, third time lucky. The procedure is as follows. Rotate the locking ring until the chuck is in such a position that I can press the button on the headstock which locks it. And as you can see here, I've rotated the collet and now I'm reversing the process and locking it in position. When I start the lathe, it seems to be slightly better than it was in the last clip. But it's still not running anywhere near true. If I put a piece of bar like this in my other collet chuck, the Bernard chuck on the Smart & Brown lathe, it runs perfectly concentrically. I phoned the supplier of this Er40 system and he asked me to do a simple test, which was to use a dial test indicator, or a DTI as they're known, to make sure that the chuck itself was concentric. Pointless using the DTI on the piece of bar, I can see that's really out of true. I'm going to remove the ring and the collet and the piece of bar completely so I can use a dial test indicator on the taper in the chuck. I set the ring to 0 on the outside of the DTI. Now I'm rotating the chuck and as you can see there's about 2 thou movement, which is really not a lot. After this I removed the chuck because I know it's okay, there's nothing wrong with this at all. The tapping noise that you've just heard was me hitting the end of the drawbar to release the Morse taper number 3 from the hole. So the next thing I'm going to do is to test the chuck that was sent to me by a viewer called Ron. This chuck is much better because it screws onto the spindle nose thread, so I can turn longer lengths of a greater diameter of metal, because the metal bar can go through the chuck and along the hole in the spindle, which the Morse taper fitting on the other chuck does not allow. This, by the way, is my workshop electric toothbrush. And here's a top tip: use some WD-40 spray and an electric toothbrush, which I'm using to clean the external thread on the spindle nose and the internal thread in this chuck, and it gets them very clean. I did this a couple of times to really clean off any potential pieces of metal stuck to the threads that would misalign the unit. In this clip I'm screwing the chuck in place, and I must say that this thread is a very good fit indeed. No rattle, no slop, no concentricity problem anywhere. And also the locking ring is a very good fit on the thread at the front of the chuck. I've temporarily fitted the locking ring because I don't want to lacerate my hand on the sharp threads as I screw the chuck into position. One viewer commented and said, "Why do I keep issuing health and safety warnings?" Well, think about it. If you're a beginner to the hobby, you're not going to know things like the end of threads are very, very sharp and could badly cut your hand. So even though a lot of the health and safety warnings are common sense, I will continue to issue them. So here we go. This is a health and safety warning. When using your hand very close to pieces of metal, like the end of the thread of this chuck, which are very sharp indeed, it is a good idea to put something over the thread, just in case you cut your fingers and bleed all over the bed of the lathe. See what I mean? It's common sense really, but common sense is not always that common. In this clip I'm setting up the dial test indicator and I'm turning the outer ring just to 0 it. The dial test indicator gives a reading of about 4 thou, only about 2 thou more than the commercial item, which is really not a lot. In this clip I'm using the standard nose ring, not the special ball race one. This is the one that came with my standard chuck. And this time I'm using the dial test indicator on the piece of bar that is in the chuck. And it's really not bad, a couple of thou either way. And that was with the piece of bar sticking out of the chuck quite a long way. So I've pushed the bar back into the chuck, I've retightened it and I'm going to machine it. I've just faced the end of the piece of bar and this was fine, so it's held really securely in the chuck, but if you watch the video slowed down you'll see just how much the parts move. If I take the collet out, reseat it and retighten the ring, it becomes slightly better or worse depending on where it is. As this is a collet chuck, which is designed to accurately hold work so you can remove the work from it, put it back in and it stays the same, then this is a bit weird, because every time I remove the work from the chuck and put it back in, it spins differently. But back to the first chuck, the one that was the commercial item that I bought with the collets, that is fine, nothing wrong with that at all. Today is Saturday and on Monday I'm going to phone RDG Tools and report my findings. I think that for any collet work I'm going to use the collet chuck I've always used, which is the Bernard one off my other lathe. That's about it for this video. I'll leave you with a shot of a proper collet chuck. It's just a pity they're so expensive. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website. Click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that you will find it very easy to find other videos that you may like to watch.